get to the money. Gotta get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. So you know that I'm on it. Gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and me. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. And gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and they. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another episode of Drinking After Dark, a podcast where we discuss random topics while having a few drinks. I'm your host, Darius, and as always, drink responsibly. And y'all make sure y'all follow Drinking After Dark podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and y'all make sure y'all like and subscribe to Drinking After Dark podcast YouTube channel. Tonight, I'm drinking on my Crown Royal Vanilla, and tonight's episode is sponsored by Joe Shakinab and Shakinab.com. Go visit Shakinab.com for services, monthly updates, and contact information. Once again, visit Shakinab.com, promoting leadership and scholarship. All right, man. Let's get into it, man. I want to talk about this particular topic came about. It was basically flooding on my timeline it was pretty much late Saturday night, pretty much Sunday, pretty much all day Sunday. And we have to talk about the fight between Haney and Lomachenko. It was a good fight. I'm just gonna call it what it is. It's a good fight, but the fight had some controversy, especially with the decision. A lot of people believe that Lomachenko won the fight. You have, where I looked at it, a very few people had Haney that won the fight. Me personally, I had Lomachenko winning the fight. But, you know, it was a lot of controversy around it. When I watched the fight, and I felt like, you know, when it was all said and done, Lomachenko won. Now, you have a lot of people who commented, you know, they went to their social media pages and everything, said, you know, Haney clearly won the fight, which I don't know how you say clearly won. So if you're not a fighter, I'm not going to want to listen to you. But you have some fighters out there who basically said, no, Lomachenko won that fight. I'll give you a prime example. Shakur Stevenson, who is a rising star in the sport. If you haven't seen him fight, I mean, he's coming, right? He's coming. And in the pre-fight commentary, he basically said that he believed Haney was going to win this fight. But after the fight was over, he felt like Lomachenko won the fight. The way he had it scored was 8-4. Now, here's where the controversy comes into play. Was it a close fight? Yes. Some people clearly thought Lomachenko won the fight based on the criteria that should be judged on, right? But the problem is that the judges' scorecards, and this has been an issue for decades, right? Decades. And I'll give y'all some examples in a minute, but I'm gonna read out these scorecards real quick. Two judges had the fight 115-113, but one judge had the fight 116-112. Now, I'm not understanding how you get 116-112 out of this fight. Like I watched the fight and I don't see how that happened. So when I think about judges, and in particular with this fight, you know, Haney's face after the fight looked like he lost the fight. He felt like if you saw his demeanor afterwards, you know, he like, oh man, I lost the fight. I think he was surprised. And no disrespect to his dad, but he clearly did not win this fight. And I felt like, and I'm gonna throw this out there, Y'all don't know Lomachenko's from the Ukraine. We know the situation between U.S. and Ukraine. Of course, you got China involved. A bunch of politics, right? I feel like that might have played a part in all of this. You know, boxing itself is like it's very unpredictable because we don't know how these judges are going to judge this fight, right? So I'm not sure what was going on in that situation, but maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe not. It shouldn't. It's just speculation. I heard some people say it. Who knows? But Lomachenko, who is one of the boxing's best, I feel like he got screwed out of this fight. Now, if you could say, okay, it could have went either way. All right, cool. The 116, 112, I don't know. I have no idea how that came about. And I think a lot, and for whatever reason, this stuff always happens in Vegas. I'm not understanding that. It always happens in Vegas. And a lot of people thinking, oh, this is a money fight. After seeing this fight, because they were predicting like, oh, Haney versus Tank Davis. After seeing this fight, ain't no way in hell Haney's gonna beat Tank Davis. Ain't no way. Tank Davis is on just proved that he's on a whole nother level than Haney, right? I would feel better personally. I mean, this is just me. I personally think Lomachenko and Tank Davis makes more sense than Haney than Davis. Because we saw what Lomachenko did. Right. In my eyes, when I saw the fight, I felt like Lomachenko won the fight. Now, don't get me wrong. Haney had cleaner shots, but everything else, it was Lomachenko. He out landed him. He outthrown him. He basically controlled the pace of the fight, the ring generalship, all of that stuff, right? He controlled it. And I don't know what these judges are seeing. Maybe it's time for boxing to step in and say, okay, we probably need to start sitting these judges, somewhere higher up so they can get a better view of the fight. Because, if you don't know, these judges, they sit along ringside, but they're not around each other, so they don't communicate. So they're sitting in 3 different spots around the ring. And fortunately, they can't really see everything that goes on in the entire, so they got to pretty much go by what they see. I think that they should be higher up, probably put them in a room. Nobody's there but them, but them. And I also believe that they should okay. I think there is some money grabbing going on. I think there's some biases going on in the sport of boxing. We have seen questionable decisions in this sport. It's the reason why the sport, in my opinion, overall is behind MMA. Because in MMA, if it goes to the scorecards, you pretty much know clear cut who the winner is, right? Because they have set the guidelines in terms of what they should be judging. Okay. Now, even with that being said, in MMA, a lot of fights end in knockouts or submissions. So a lot of times they don't go to the scorecards. Not saying don't in boxing, but boxing is more technically sound than MMA. That's why you got fighters that can go into MMA and do boxing, and you have boxers can't go into MMA and do mixed martial arts. It's 2 different sports. All right. But we have seen questionable decisions, and I could go back to noticeably. I remember this fight. Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. If y'all don't remember that fight, the first one, not the second one, but the first one, Lennox Lewis clearly dominated that fight. And for whatever reason, that fight ended in a draw. I don't know how it happened, but that brought so much controversy um, to the sport, and we start seeing that spiral down. You can go back to Roy Jones Jr. in the Olympics, where he clearly dominated his opponent, but because they were in his hometown, his home country, the judges basically gave the fight to their hometown kid. Of course, the judge has been banned from the sport, but still, we have seen this stuff in boxing more so than anything else. And I just feel like there has to start being some repercussions going around and start. It's kind of like how in other sports, right? Basketball, football, baseball, um, when referees make mistakes or whatever, they never get called out, right? I think they should start doing interviews and explaining their reasoning why this particular call was made or decision was made. I think when it comes to the judges, I think it should be the same thing, right? Because if an athlete can get all the criticism, for doing what they're supposed to do what they're supposed to do, then I think the judges, the referees, the umpires, whoever, should take criticism. Even the referees in boxing, they get criticized. In MMA, they get criticized as well. You know what I mean? We have seen referees in both boxing and MMA didn't step in at the right time. They let the fight go on too long, and they let the fighter absorb too much punishment, stuff like that. So it's kind of like they get criticized as well, but we don't want to criticize the judges. And we know who the judges are because they announce who they are before the fight happens. They don't show faces, but they announce who they are before the fight happens. So I just think that when it's all said and done, we got to probably get some transparency into why they scored the fights the way they did, right? Like I said, when it's all said and done, I believe Lomachenko won the fight. A lot of people agree. You got some people that disagree as well. That's your opinion, so be it. I'm not going to argue with you because you pretty much stuck in your ways. So why would I want to do that? But I do know this. If you mean to tell me this was a money grab to set up a fight between Haney and Davis, I'm not interested anymore. I'd rather see Lomachenko versus Davis because I know what he did. I don't see Haney on Davis's level. I do not see it. Okay. To me, Tank Davis would destroy Haney in the ring. He would, because Davis got his quicker speed, his hands are faster, it's quicker, and Tank Davis got more power. So I don't see how that would even make sense, in my opinion. So all this stuff, man, it's just ridiculous. It got to stop. I hate it for the sport of boxing, but this is the reason why people rather watch MMA rather than boxing. Because if it comes down to the judges, now you're holding your breath, like, are they going to get this right? You know what I mean? I'll give you a prime example, right? So the first fight I saw this was all on ESPN, by the way. You had ESPN, then you had ESPN Plus pay-per-view. So that fight was on ESPN Plus pay-per-view, but on ESPN, you had Nico Ali Walsh versus who was he going? I forgot who he was. That fight to me was an entertaining fight, but those judges pretty much got the fight right. It was a draw. There was no controversy around it, right? And then, of course, the second fight, Junto Nakatami, basically knocked out his opponent. Of course, no controversy there because it ended in a knockout. when a boxing fan gets nervous, because it's going to the judges' scorecards, they judge the fight differently. And I think sometimes these judges already handpicked who they really want to win. That's my personal belief, because something like that should not happen. If it would have ended in a draw, people would say, well, it was a draw. Hey, whatever. Haney's father would be like, no, there's no rematch. There's a reason why you don't want no rematch. Because you know the deal. You know what really happened. And I think that's unfortunate that we got a guy who felt like he got screwed because the judges screwed him. And you got a lot of people who are supporting Lomachenko in this regard. Not saying Haney didn't show up and fight. He did. It was a great fight. But by the end of the day, the results speak for itself. And clearly, Lomachenko out-punched, outlanded, controlled the fight pretty much over Haney. And they gave Haney the victory. So I just think that there's some stuff going on right there that needs to be investigated. And I think we need more transparency in sports. That's what we need. We definitely need more transparency in sports, especially when it comes to the officiating, because there has to be explanations to why you felt like this particular person won, or you made that call, that questionable call, right? It got to be that. Now I understand that in when you have not boxing, you have football, basketball, baseball, they don't have judges, they have officials, officiating the game, right? But they get criticized for the calls they make. But when it comes to like combat sports, right, you have the judges, you have boxing, MMA, sometimes you got to question, like, why did you score the bout the way that you scored the bout? Because the 115, 113, I don't think people had an issue with. The 116, 112, that's the one that was like shocking to me, because I'm like, how did that come about? What happened to say this was a 116, 112? You basically said this wasn't a close fight. Basically, that's what you're saying. This wasn't a close fight, and you just disregard everything. It's almost like you put your personal feelings involved in this, and you, by the end of the day, you said, well, if it's close, I'm gonna give it to the person I wanted to have it. That's not being fair to the fighter. Both fighters, actually, because now it's kind of like the person who got screwed, like, you never cared for me in the first place. And then the person who got the round or got the fight, they're like, did I really win this fight? I'll give you a prime example, right? So years ago, the first fight between Floyd Mayweather and Madonna, right? That first fight, to me, I'm gonna be honest with you, I felt like that's one of Floyd Mayweather's worst performances, right? That fight, I felt like he won solely based on name. I thought it was more of a draw, personally, but because it's in his hometown, he got the name, they gave him the fight. Floyd Mayweather did this, and this is what I respect about Floyd Mayweather. He took the Apollo Creed approach. When Apollo Creed beat Rocky in that first fight, he won, but he felt like he didn't beat him. Floyd Mayweather said, no, it's a rematch. Floyd Mayweather called for that rematch. Now Madonna, he said, no, rematch. The pride in a great champion always would take over, right? Even though he won the fight, he felt like he didn't win. So he has to go back and prove, like, no, I'm a win. I'm a winner. I'm gonna go back and show the people I won this fight, right? I think that's what Haney needs to do. I think he needs to step in and say, you know what? They don't believe I won this fight. We got to do a rematch. And I think a rematch should be warranted, because people would tune in and watch the rematch. Because you have to go out there and say, did I actually beat him? Or did I get by based on my name? Because I'm going to be real with you. There's a lot more people say you lost than they said you won. And I think you have to go show people that, yeah, I clearly won this fight. So I think a second fight needs to be made. And I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense. If you ask me, from a business standpoint, it makes sense. But yeah, he doesn't need to. No, Tank Davis is on a whole nother level. I don't see how that's even going to be a fight. You know, we said the same thing about, you know, the Tank Davis Ryan Garcia fight, and that fight, you know what happened? It ended with a body shot. So I think this is something that has to take place. Again, I definitely would like to see the rematch, and I hope Haney's camp reconsiders the rematch. And of course, you know, they're businessmen by the end of the day. It's all a business. I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense to do a rematch because, you know, if people don't believe you won the fight, do a rematch. There's more money involved. Then you go out there and show them, yeah, I clearly beat him. Now let's put this to bed. Because going forward, when you're in Lomachenko, I mean, let's just be honest. He most likely probably end up in the Boxing Hall of Fame, right? You don't want to go through your career and basically say, well, I just got by based on my name beating this guy. When clearly it wasn't a definitive, it wasn't very definitive at all, right? Because one, you didn't knock him out. Two, you didn't stop him. And three, you really didn't outbox him. Let's call it what it is. He really didn't outbox him. So I want to see the rematch. I think boxing fans want to see the rematch. I think Haney should actually reach out to Lomachenko's camp like, I need this rematch. And I think that's when you can start getting respect, not only from the fans, but from your peers in the sport of boxing. So that's just my opinion right now. I just think that, you know, when it comes to stuff like this, it's more, you just gotta have pride and basically say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead. I want to fight this guy again, just to prove to everybody I won this fight, and I'm ready to take on newcomers. I don't want to get by based on my name. Take the Floyd approach with Madonna. Take Apollo Creed with Rocky Balboa. And if you lose that second fight, you lose the second fight. But your pride shouldn't allow you just to move on. And that's the thing. I think a lot of times with boxers today, they don't have pride. You know, they don't have the pride to actually step up to the plate and basically prove to themselves that they're truly better than their opponent. So again, that's why I respected, you know, Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, because they did all that talking. They finally got in the ring and you saw who was a better fighter. So hopefully, you know, more boxers will take that step and make the sport of boxing great again. You know, I'm a fight fan. Of course, I'm a sports fan anyway, but I'm a fight fan too. You know, UFC is taking over. They're taking over the combat sports field, and you know, it's exciting. You got fighters who are not running from each other. So let's see a rematch and let's get that definitive answer so we can put all this to rest. All right, man. Listen, before I get out of here, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been tuning in on the podcast. Appreciate it. New episodes are available every Friday. So please tell your friends and family to check out episodes of the podcast, and I also have my reviews on my channel as well. So y'all go check it out. Support it, man. Please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm your boy Darius from Drinking After Dark podcast, and we out. Peace.
Gotta get to the money. Gotta get to the money. Early morning, so you know that I'm on it. Gotta make sure that my family straight. Gotta make sure that the kids and make sure that the kids done. Gotta make sure that the bills is paid. And then let's get to the money. Get to the money. Uh-huh.